And now from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Sarah Comadina. Brought to you by Rio Tinto Alcan.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm Sarah Comadina, and today I'm talking to artist and teacher Sheila Karrow. She came from Haida Gwaii to share her artistic knowledge to different communities in the Northwest. When she was in Terrace, she was conducting a life drawing class, and I was able to meet up with her at the Terrace Art Gallery.
This time we have a female model, and she's really experienced. She's fantastic. Knows how to pose, is very good at holding poses, and she has a dancing background, so she has an idea of what positions are really good for drawing. And life drawing here is always a great opportunity because it doesn't happen that much. And when I talked to Diane Postman about, what workshops would you like to have, she said right away, life drawing. We haven't done it in a while, and it's nice to have a little instruction because it's a very intimidating activity because the human form is not something you can guess at like a tree or a still life. There's not a lot of room for error, and having an unclothed figure brings out all kinds of areas of discussion about self-esteem, body image, gender stereotypes, and I'm a firm believer of life drawing because those bodies are real. They're our bodies, and in order to learn to draw people in the landscape or in a still life, you need to know what we look like underneath, and not just getting a person unclothed, but also having an understanding of the anatomy, of the bones and the muscles, which of course we can't do all of that here for one workshop. And then when you put clothing on the model, when they go into a landscape, you know how to build it from the basic form underneath to the detail and the information on the surface.
It sounds like it's much deeper than just drawing a person. It actually means something, and I thought it was really interesting how you brought up the self-esteem awareness. And is that self-esteem for the model or maybe the person who is actually drawing?
It's everybody. If you could teach life drawing to a grade 12 high school class, both male and female, it would just open a really good opportunity for healthy discussion about body image, and that body image comes in many different sizes, and beauty and health, good health, is not about gender stereotypes and the things that the media indoctrinates into our youth, which we've all experienced. And even in the adult world, we suffer from trying to be, have images of ourselves of being in a certain shape and looking a certain way. But with life drawing, you get to see the variety of human forms, and it's honest and it's beautiful, and it's all about variety. So the model's usually pretty comfortable with that, or they wouldn't be at that modeling stage. So they're usually in a good place. It's important to show a lot of respect to a model because it's hard work, very hard to hold poses, and there's vulnerability when you're bearing it all in front of other people. There's definitely vulnerability. And new coming artists, people who are new to life drawing, they have some discomfort at the beginning because there's the desire to not look. Right? We've been taught, don't look at someone if they're vulnerable. But in this case, you're looking very intensely. And an interesting thing happens when you're drawing a model. You forget it's person. And you start to look at light and shadow and line and form, and you're studying space shapes. And you go into a very, very deep type of concentration. It's almost a meditation. And it's high energy, it's high focus. It just reminds me back in high school when I had to write my English essay for my exam. You're just so in tune and you're efficient, and it's a quick process. You can't take more than half an hour. The model may be only posing for 10 or 15 minutes. So it's very invigorating and very, very healthy for artists to do so that they can see how there's movement in all forms. The model's moving. It's not still.
How did you get interested in this? How did you become a part of learning about live models? And is it just drawing, or does it include other mediums as well?
It can. This particular one, we're sticking with drawing, and we're playing around with graphite and charcoal and Conte, and white charcoal on black paper. So we're looking at different value. And you asked me, how did I get into it? From the minute I could pick up a pencil or cut paper or sew or shade or anything, I could. So art was a way of life for me right from the beginning. And I started painting at about 8, took classes, and I got quite comfortable and I really enjoyed it. It was acrylic painting and then drawing. I didn't pick up watercolor until I was in university. And then I started teaching at the age of 14. I was pretty young, and I was writing classes in Ontario, and life drawing comes from university. That's my first exposure to it. So,
what was your first experience walking into a room knowing that you're going to be drawing a person as a person? What was that like for you?
I remember it well. I think everybody remembers their first time well. It was a male model, and I was had to sit up close because I came a little bit late, so all the good spots were gone, and I was very close to the model, and I was very uncomfortable. And the model, often the model will just kind of go into a daydream or something, but this model would stare right at me when I was trying to draw, and I was very, very self-conscious. But it wasn't long. It takes about 10 minutes before you get into that focus area, and you forget that it's a person, and you shouldn't, but that's what happens. It becomes an area of study, deep concentration. I should say, though, that course, they didn't prepare us ahead of time. We didn't have lots of discussions about how we see bodies and what we're going to be doing and how we're going to shade. So I remembered that, and to this day when I teach life drawing, I try to start it up before the model comes in. So you have a couple hours to get to know each other, to talk about what you know, your expectations and what you're going to experience, so that when the model comes in, everybody's ready.
For you, you mentioned that you're very self-conscious, but after that, you were talking about how you found was it a new beauty within people and within yourself as well that you found after experiencing this first life drawing experience, but then you continued. So is that what you found?
Yeah, we had a different model every week, and so we had a variety of men and women and body types and ages. And you know, every time a new model came in, it pushed my boundaries around understanding and seeing beauty in the human body. And sometimes the model for drawing is not always the type of model you would describe as being physically fit or fitting into those stereotypes. Artists look for different things in a model, and so your sense of beauty changes and it's broadened. And I've always believed beauty is truth revealing itself. It's not some image in a magazine.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. Now from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection, brought to you by Rio Tinto Alcan.
Thanks for staying with us for Open Connection. Today, Haida Gwaii artist Sheila Karrow joins us to talk about her classes that she conducts in the Northwest. Now let's rejoin the conversation.
There are amazing artists in the North, and Haida Gwaii is a small place in terms of population. And we have a lot of artists on Haida Gwaii too, but I love the relationships of the people in Kitimat, in Smithers, and in Terrace, and every community has its personality and a vibrant art-based community, and the landscape's so beautiful here. It's different. The Skeena River, Telkwa, all those areas, it's a delight to come and visit.
Is it ever intimidating knowing that there is this talent in the Northwest coming here and also sharing what you know?
I don't think so. I think because I started teaching really, really young. I've done it for so long, I don't have to think about it. It's just second nature. And in the art world, you can go two ways. You can become competitive and try to seek out a market for your work, or you can look at it as a collaborative group of learners together who are all sharing their passion. That's where I am. That's the focus. So I don't see other artists as more successful or less successful. We're all in it together. And today I might be a teacher, but tomorrow I might be a student somewhere.
Is there always things to learn about art?
You're never done. No, it's the seeing, it's the way you look at the world. It gets touched on in yoga and in meditation. I've seen elements of it in writing and in drama and theater. It's a relationship between people and the world around them, whether that be landscape, other people, animals, the time in which you live. And when you're doing art, you're doing something that's healing to your body. It calms you down, it focuses you, and it helps you appreciate the world. When you focus on something, let's say the forest floor, when you really take the time to look at it, the longer you look at it, the more you see. And the more you see, the more you appreciate. So it nurtures a caring relationship for the things around you, as well as the actual act of doing art. So sometimes it's more about process than it is the product.
From my understanding, or what I see, a lot of people maybe begin art in their high school, get more serious about it and get school. But if you're in your 30s or 40s or even older, how does somebody like that approach beginning art?
I would recommend a drawing first or a painting. And not that it can't go the other way, but drawing, you're dealing with composition, how to draw the shapes, light and dark, and you're not taking on color yet. Color is like an extra ball to juggle. So it's nice to get that stuff understood before you go to color. And books on how to see, perception, introductory drawing books that deal with color and line and value, not too complicated. Anybody can learn at any age. Yeah, you can even learn when you can't see. Once I had a student who was blind, and he was 94, and he came to me and he said, "I'd like to learn to draw. It's on my bucket list before I die." And I was a young woman, I was under 30, and I had no idea how I was going to do it. So we sat down and we talked together about what I could teach and what he could potentially learn. And we created, the two of us created this great environment. He showed me how to make a palette using Braille. So red was always at the top, blue was always at 4 o'clock, and yellow was always at 7 o'clock. And he would paint from his palette based on the order of the Braille and his memory. And he never put the colors together. They were always separated by a space so that he didn't have to deal with mixing. And when he learned how to do contour line drawing, which is when you study an object, like if it's a glass jar or something in front of you, you're looking at it very, very slowly, and you're studying it while you draw it. And in his case, he felt it. So he was holding the jar with one hand while he was drawing with the other. So anyone can learn to draw.
How did his stuff turn out?
Good.
Yeah.
You could recognize what he was doing. And he had a simplified way of it. And so instead of having too much information, his compositions were very beautiful and simple.
Open Connection. We'll be right back after these messages. And now from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection, brought to you by Rio Tinto Alcan.
Welcome back to Open Connection, your connection to Northwestern BC. Sheila Karrow is an art teacher in Haida Gwaii. And during the year, she does make her way to other communities in the Northwest, such as Terrace and Smithers. She says through teaching youth and adults, she has found that art can be healing to an individual.
I've kind of come at the healing part through the side door because I don't have a training in art therapy, but a lot of our master's program was focused on healing and how we worked through art in our life and how it helped us become full individuals, and then as teachers, how we could do that for other people. I have encountered so many students over the years who've come not directly with a problem, but it comes out through their work and they resolve their problems. And I've used art that way myself. It's been like a visual journal, and some of my paintings are about pain. And by painting out the pain and putting your story on paper, it's like writing things out, right? Sometimes if you write things out and let it out, or talk to a friend, or then it comes out of you, you let that energy out, and art does that. Yeah, a great example would be Frida Kahlo. She never imagined her paintings would become famous because for her they were therapy. She painted out her pain and her life happenings on the canvas.
What's your favorite medium? What do you enjoy the most to do?
That's a tough one. When I'm with a group of drawers, like last night and tonight, my favorite medium is drawing. When I'm with some watercolor painters, that's my favorite medium. But when I get home in my studio, recently it's been acrylic. And I think it's just because of the intense color right now. I get what I want with that color. And acrylic is very user-friendly. It dries in 10 minutes. You can make your changes. And it washes with water. So I guess acrylic at the moment. On Haida Gwaii, we're very close to the land, and so that's affected my work and it's affected my teaching because there's no distractions there. There's no malls, and there's not a lot of entertainment in the evening. You make your own. So you're really, really in close contact to the elements, to the weather, to the land, to the tides. And it affects everybody spiritually and creatively. So we have a lot of creative people on Haida Gwaii, and that environment has definitely influenced me. This summer I'm doing a plein air course on Haida Gwaii. So if there's anyone interested in being part of that, it'll be between 3 and 5 days long, and we're going to go out and paint in the forests and on the beaches. It's going to be watercolor, but people with oil and acrylic who have some background could certainly join us. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure how to do that contact, but or through the galleries, I suppose. But Haida Gwaii is an amazing place. You have to see it at least once in your life.
Have you grown up there, or did you move there later?
I've been there for 10 years, and I came from Waterloo, Ontario, so radically different. And I was married at the time, and our family went to Haida Gwaii for a 4-day holiday. And after that, we packed up our lives in Ontario, and my husband was able to get a job. Whoa. And so we moved.
Whoa, I just got goosebumps from that story. That's insane. And for you being there 10 years, what have you noticed that if you stayed in Waterloo, that you were able to gain an experience and life in Haida Gwaii by just living there?
Well, the land. The waterfront, it's right at your front door, literally, and the beaches are yours. So there isn't this sense of population and people around. And people have baggage, right? We all carry baggage around. And it's distracted. You could be busy in the city working and doing errands and taking your kids to activities, and you're too busy to do any real soul searching and personal growth. But it happens on Haida Gwaii because you have to look at yourself in the face. You're there, and sometimes you're on your own. And so it's really a wonderful feeling, but it can also be a very hard feeling of isolation, and you have to have courage to be there. It's also the Haida culture. The Haida on the island, the culture permeates everything, and I'm a teacher, and a lot of my curriculum is Haida. And the Haida people are very strong and generous and giving people. And part of me feels like I've been adopted into that culture, and I feel very proud to be connected to it, really proud. It's an honor to be teaching curriculum that's Haida-based, because that means land-based, it means culturally based, sustainable living, and local food. I mean, there's all kinds of wonderful things that come from that.
From what I'm hearing, there wasn't much of an adjustment for you from moving from Ontario. Was there?
Oh yeah, it's still there. You're constantly adjusting, right? I think the first thing that I noticed was that I drove too fast, and I was tailgating behind another teacher one time, and one time behind a parent. And you do that in the city, right? And you honk your horn, but you wouldn't think of doing that on Haida Gwaii because you know them, right? It's more like you wave hi, and you just slow down, and you're all community together. So that's pretty different right away, for sure. And groceries come once a week, and we run out. So here and in the city, you just go to the grocery store, and whatever you want, any time of the week, any time of the year, is there. And it's not the case on Haida Gwaii. So you think differently. You buy what you need, and you accommodate what you want to what's available.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now from the CFTK TV studios, this is Open Connection, brought to you by Rio Tinto Alcan.
Welcome back to Open Connection, and thank you for joining us. Artist Sheila Karrow lived in Ontario for most of her life, and when her family took a quick vacation to Haida Gwaii, they fell in love and moved across the country to live in the community. Now, over a decade later, she says it inspires her art in a different way. Let's rejoin the fascinating conversation.
Well, if I think about it from a different point of view from my own, I think when people see Haida Gwaii, they see a very old culture. You're walking on the ground of a culture that's been there for potentially 13,000 years, and that puts Egypt in perspective in South America. Some people have said they think the oldest human civilization is in that area of North America. So that's pretty powerful, and every once in a while you'll find an old piece of pipe or a bead or something, or a bone, or a tool, something that was used as a tool, like a whale bone or something, and you know that you're not the first here and that there's this wisdom to the land. For me personally, is the tidal pool. So it's just this exotic place, and my paintings are at the moment about the tidal pool. I've spent some time in the forest, but right now I can't seem to get out of the tidal pool. It's so colorful. The colors are almost artificial. They're straight colors out of an artist's palette. You don't even need to tone them down. It's straight. And it's hard to believe that in these little tidal pools we have these incredibly tropical colors, like a fruit market in August, or in Mexico or Hawaii, you look at the coral reefs and the tropical fish, we have those colors too. It's so intense.
If you were to take a painting from when you were living in Waterloo and then take a painting from now, what would be the biggest difference in them?
Subject matter, because the style is similar. I used to paint corn a lot. I fell in love with corn in cornfields. I would go in and study them and how they moved in the wind, and they were very much like sails catching wind on a sailboat. And the agricultural landscape and the succession of forest to agriculture to city development, I became a bit of an environmentalist in my painting. So that changed because I went to tidal pool and West Coast images, but the environmental aspect is still there. I was involved in an oil-free art show, Art for an Oil-Free Coast.
Yes.
And there's a lot of work that's available for artists to do that raise consciousness around the West Coast environment, the coastal environment. In the north, we have a few less resources than we have in the south, and it's really, really important to support your public and community centers, whatever activities they are, whether it's Nordic skiing or hiking, because without that support and without the population and the involvement, they can't continue. And art galleries and art centers are a gift. There are a lot of places that don't have these communities, and it's a place where you can introduce your children to activities. It's a complement to our education system, and it's a place where we can come together and be creative.
That's all for this episode of Open Connection. Thanks for watching. To get a closer look at local events in the Northwest, join me weeknights at 7 right after the news.